my name is Dasia Suesberry. I'm a communication student here at Youngstown State University, and today I will be talking about my study called The Uses and Gratifications of Social Media. Well, I know what you're probably thinking. I have a pretty good idea of what social media is, but what is the uses and gratifications? Well, in a study done by Wang in 2012, they define social media as an online medium platform that allows users to be able to engage and connect with others through user-generated activity or shared activity. And they also go on to define uses and gratification as discovering why there is a need or motivation and then figuring out if those needs are being fulfilled. They also identify 4 different categories that contribute to social media use or drive social media use. They've come up with the emotional aspect, the social aspects, the cognitive, and then the habitual aspects, which we'll get into later. But first, we're going to talk about how do we formulate a question to best fit this study. Well, in this study, my hypothesis suggests that social media is driven by the emotional, social, cognitive, and habitual needs, but not all are gratifying. In other words, the motivations to use social media doesn't necessarily guarantee gratification of what is being sought upon in a given moment. Now, the importance of this study is to understand the importance of social media and understand the importance of uses and gratification, as it gives insight on why gratification is usually sought but not always obtained. So in this next category, the Wang study done in 2012 identifies 4 categories that contribute to social media use. Emotional, which involves one seeking to find pleasure or an emotional experience or some form of escapism. Then there's the social needs, which involves maintaining contact with friends, family, and then the world around them. And then the next one is cognitive, which involves wanting to acquire knowledge and understanding. And then the final one is habitual, which is more of like ritualistic behaviors that help bring structure to one's day. In another study done by Quan, Hayes, and Young in 2010, they found that there were 6 dimensions linked to social media use, similar to the one found in the Wang study. They identified pastime, affection, fashion inspiration, to share problems, sociability, so such as socializing, and then social information, which is very similar to the cognitive. Both studies have similar findings, but they both identify uses for social media use. Now let's dig a little bit deeper into each of the 4 categories, starting with the emotional needs. In a study done by Quan Hayes, they compare the uses and gratifications of IM and Facebook. The study showed that students gravitated towards IM versus Facebook because they perceived IM as a platform for expressing concern and friendship towards others, whereas Facebook lacked this level of intimacy. Now, although both platforms offer a form of escapism, finding pleasure, and things of that nature, they found that the motivation to use IM was more significant on IM than Facebook. This suggests that although both platforms offer the similar and almost same experience, one can resonate more with a user. Next, we will talk about the social needs aspect. In a study done by Wang et al. In 2018, they found that social needs had the largest impact of social media use among users. In another study done by Dasia et al. In 2018, they found that social needs was a motivation to use social media, but in addition, the act of social interaction online was linked to agreeableness and self-presentation. They define agreeableness as if a person perceives themselves as likable enough offline, then they will be also liked online. They also define self-presentation as how one perceives themselves and then how they convey that to others. Social needs motive is more than just wanting to connect with others online, but it is more of if they perceive themselves as likable enough to interact with others online more frequently. Next, we will talk about the cognitive needs, which refers to the desire to acquire knowledge and learn information on social media. In a study done by Quan Hayes and Young in 2010, participants viewed Facebook as an avenue for getting general information and important news relative to wherever they lived. However, in the study, IM did not yield the same results because it falls short in providing extensive and qualitative information, whereas Facebook offers these advanced features through features like pictures, wall posts, videos that come from all resources all over, whereas IM typically comes from one source. The takeaway is that users find fulfillment and this can typically come down to the functionality of the social media platforms, which can enhance fulfillment over other platforms. The last one that we will look at is the habitual aspect, which involves like checking your social media multiple times throughout the day, whether it's before class, after class, or maybe even during dinner. In a study done by Wang in 2012, they found that over time, habitual needs can actually drive social media use, even if user gratification is not obtained. This can actually influence even heavier social media use. This suggests that habitual behaviors can help bring structure to one's day, but another contribution is that it can be a matter of convenience as well. Next, we will talk about the method. This consisted of undergraduate students at the College of Creative Arts and Communication at Youngstown State University. Students received extra credit for their participation in this survey. The survey was distributed via email by their professor. This survey consisted of 174 students, all who were 18 years or older. 57 were male and 116 were female, with various ethnic backgrounds. The survey began with a consent form where students or participants had to agree to the terms and conditions prior to completing the survey. The survey was part of a larger scale survey, which minimized the number of surveys that they had to participate in altogether. Continuing on into the method section. The survey consisted of 24 questions. 7 were demographics such as age, gender, and then the 17 consisted of social media questions individualized to my survey. The Likert scale was used to measure the uses and gratifications based upon the 4 categories mentioned before. Using the Likert scale, 5 being always, 1 being never, students were able to choose which responses best reflected their attitudes and behaviors. The first 8 questions focused on the uses of social media, and the last 9 focused on fulfillment of those uses on social media. The concept of this survey stems from the study done by Dong et al. In 2018. This survey looked for themes. So if there was a strong correlation between uses and gratifications, meant that there was users received fulfillment on social media, and weak correlation meant the opposite. Next, we will talk about the results section. In this section, my hypothesis was supported. Out of 174 respondents, the mean score for obtained gratification was 3.51%, which leans towards an overall positive. This indicated that user gratification is obtained sometimes based upon the Likert scale used in the survey. Results did not reflect a high mean score, which would have been a 4 or 5, which would have indicated that the gratification is always obtained or often obtained. Results did not indicate a low mean score of 1 or 2, which would have indicated that a gratification is never obtained or rarely obtained. This suggests that although gratification is often sought, it is not always obtained, which goes back and supports my hypothesis. Now moving on to the discussion. This study predicted that motivations to use social media doesn't guarantee gratification in a given moment. The results from this study supports my hypothesis that generally users are fulfilled on social media, but not always or never. Now, limitations of this study include that the sample is not representative of the general American population on social media. Another factor is that there are a limited number of variables that could actually measure obtained user gratification on social media. Now, for future references, the functionality of each platform should be analyzed. Features that may be offered on one platform may not be offered on another platform. This could also contribute to overall user gratification. So, in closing, this study demonstrates the importance of uses and gratification and social media, as it gives insight on why user gratification is sought but not always obtained. It is imperative to continue research, as there may be other elements that contribute to user fulfillment that was not discussed in this study. By understanding an individual's motives versus fulfillment of social media, it will help society begin to understand common social media practices. Thank you.